Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up.
All that jam. A lighthearted look at the weekend jam bands.
Where we break down the jam scene's biggest stories,
Talk new bands
upcoming tours,
and show reviews. A little laughing, some hot takes, and an always positive message for the community.
Week of January 8th, 2024, Manny Sanchez.
Welcome back. It's January. We are into the new year, and we are looking forward to another year of fantastic conversations. Last we talked, Amanda, we lived in a world without a new game henge. Now, a week later, we do. Make sure you go over and head over to Wook Plus on YouTube, because Amanda and I did the Afterfish after show on the 31st because Tim, one of my partners over there, got a ticket and got to go. But we gave complete instant breakdown and reaction. You've had a week. What are your thoughts?
Oh, Kevin, is it possible to still be glowing over a concert you didn't attend? As I am. I really am. I think that as the week has gone on, I just get more and more appreciative. Number one, that it happened. But now that I've also read some of the background over the planning, I think Trey shared some information on Facebook or Instagram about all the people that were involved over the last year plus in making this happen. I am just blown away kind of all over again with the whole thing.
Right. We reached out to a few people. We got some names, and the response was, we signed an NDA. We'd love to talk to you, but I just really hope that these songs get a few spins a year now that they've learned them. Like, we get a Mockingbird. I don't even need a Forbin. I understand Forbin, people expect the narration and it's the story, but the Mockingbird part could come out of one jam and go into another, like a What's the Use or something.
Mockingbird, that section that you're talking about is beautiful, and I remembered how much I enjoy that during that live stream.
Yeah,
it was
fantastic.
really great.
So
I loved it.
We were talking. What do you think about the idea of this becoming a Broadway show? Not with Fish playing, but
yeah. I mean, if you think about the crossover between, I'll say popular culture, just for lack of a better term, and Broadway, number one, there's a lot of history to support that could be a thing. I think that would be the coolest thing ever. And I'm not even a musicals fan, and I'll just say that up front. I don't really dig Broadway stuff most of the time, but it's a great story. And I think it could translate into movie, Broadway. I mean, it just has everything that you would need. The adaptation, I would be extremely fascinated to see what someone who writes for Broadway would do with it.
The only thing is, they said at one point that they vowed to never make money from it. But at this point,
yeah, there's all kind of ways to make it as sustainable and friendly as possible. And if anyone could figure that out, I think it's Fish. So, they've got all they have all the resources at their disposal to figure out how they might want to do that.
Well, we shall see. In a little bit, we got Manny Sanchez from Groove Session in our flashback interview. But first, let's jump into
the top 3 stories of the week.
All right, Kevin. So I do technically have 3 stories this week. The first one is just kind of quick because I feel like the second 2 stories we might want to spend a fair amount of time talking about. This past weekend, I was at the Daniel Donato shows out here in Denver. Now, this was a tour opener for them, first shows of the year, and Cosmic Country was just here in late September. So honestly, it's only a couple months ago. Back then, they did not sell out, I think, any of the venues. This past weekend, they sold out Cervantes both nights, and I'm going to say they were probably a little oversold. It was packed. The crowds were super positive, excited, and they were playing with Trouble No More. So it was a 3-set night, both nights. And Daniel probably played almost 6 hours of music with very few breaks. Yeah, extremely impressive. And Trouble No More is something else. They are tremendously good.
so Daniel Donato is definitely on the way up. What is his next step? If he sells out Cervantes, what's your next club that you're coming to in Denver?
Mission Ballroom would probably be on the list there because that also has some options with regarding seating capacity. They can move the stage and some other things. I think because I remember when Goose played at the Mission in November of 21, that was that stepping stone, and then in the summer they played Sculpture Park. But I'm thinking more traditional venues, Fillmore, maybe Mission Dillon Amphitheater. I don't think they've played there yet. Supporting
Doesn't
around
the Fillmore out there leans more indie, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not my favorite venue to go to for a number of reasons. You do occasionally see jam band shows there for sure, but it's less frequent. I hardly ever go. And then, of course, you have the whole Red Rock situation with a co-bill or something could easily happen. And I think they would bring some very strong support. So I guess as news, I was super impressed that within a matter of maybe not even 3 months, they went from having a solid showing, but then to fully sold out nights. It's really cool. So that's our first story. Now, this next one, Kevin, I know it's kind of been all over the place, but I did want to talk a little bit about this Billy Strings merch situation, just because merch is such a huge part of profits for bands. We hear that all the time, and it's known. So, there's a lot out there right now, but apparently, some of the New Year's merch was created using AI instead of hiring an artist. There's a lot of kind of questions about this still. So I thought maybe you and I could kind of unpack this just a little bit because there's been some video explanations out there. First, Kevin, let me just kind of take a step back and say, do you think there's going to be a point from this, 2024 on where AI is never going to be involved in merch?
Well, I thought that somebody did the AI and submitted it. I don't know what the whole thing is, but I have no problem with it. It's not, I understand why it's an existential threat to people who put pen to paper for writing. And I get that that will be the same thing for art, but as a tool to help create, like hip hop didn't exist. Hip hop started taking snippets of other songs and built a whole new art form out of it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's my positivity because it's a new year, but I'm hoping that it's a tool to help artists create as opposed to something that people feel like is, they're ripped off because the art was created with it.
Yeah, I agree. And so I think as I've kind of tried to peel away the layers to this, I think a lot of it comes down to transparency and communication on behalf of whoever's submitting that art. And maybe it's a thing like if you're going to ask for kind of an open call, right? Because you're right, hundreds of fans or people submitted artwork to Billy String's team. He always wants to utilize that. And so when that particular design came across his way, he signed off. They fit the theme for the show. He was like, yeah, these are great. They look cool. And everything seemed fine. And then I'm not really sure where or how originally that AI kind of message started getting out there. But Strings, he asked the manager if the art was AI and the guy saying it's not. Bottom line is, I think we should get a little more comfortable with the fact that it exists. And if there needs to be a little asterisk somewhere, that says partially made using whatever platform. I mean, I'll be honest, I design shirts. I don't sell them through bands or anything like that, but I don't use AI, but I use graphic design programs where sometimes I might look for like a starter image or something to get me going. Does that mean that I did any less work? I still spent 10 hours on it. I don't know. So to me, there's a challenge here with just automatically disregarding it.
I would liken taking what you did to almost like a writer's prompt. Someone gives you something and you're supposed to work with that. You're giving yourself this prompt of the image and then transforming it. And it's a prompt with AI. You have to think through exactly what you want and tell it. And you may have to do it 15, 20 times in order to create the thing. And who's to say you don't take that and then, what if you did something in AI, printed it out, and traced it, right? And then use that to create a piece of artwork? Does that change the fact that it was done with AI originally, since it was the end product maybe was hand painted?
Right. Well, and I guess, yeah, that's where I come from too. And, a lot of my day to day is related to tech. So perhaps I come at this from a different place. Also, like I said, I'm not submitting these to anybody. These are usually for house parties and other things. But, it just goes to show that if someone said to me, you didn't draw every piece of this by hand and then render it in, Adobe Photoshop, therefore it doesn't count, I would have issues with that.
Right. There is
Yeah.
there's a fantastic book. The guy's Benjamin. I'm not even going to know his last name, but it's called "The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction," and it was written in the 30s or 40s. And basically, he's talking about a photograph. Is the reproduced picture, is that the actual work of art, or is the work of art the negative? That kind of thing. So I think that if the guy was still alive today, he would have go to town with AI and because I guess it is a mechanical reproduction now. It's electronic reproduction.
Well, right. And if those of us who are around for the big switch between dark rooms, digital cameras, I mean that whole era, because I used to work in the dark room in high school, was on yearbook, spent a ton of time developing photos. With the advent not only of digital cameras but also digital photo editing tools, you can do anything you want, right, to a photo. And I remember back then there were a lot of purists in the photography space who were so against that. So to some degree, I feel like maybe this is just a natural reaction to something new that's threatening. We can harness it like anything else for good or evil or whatever we want. You can be super creative with it. And, the response, I guess because maybe it was a New Year's shirt, very visible, this is a public kind of situation, was, if we find out that it really is AI, like, I'm going to be pissed off. Okay, because you didn't know ahead of time. So maybe it's incumbent on all of us to be just a little more aware up front and do
But
our
how do you figure that out? Somebody
due.
hands me a piece of art. How do I know it's AI or
Well, that's
not?
the other thing too, because I mean, I think we could all get online and, conjure something up, but yeah, who would really know? I guess unless you can't produce all of your edits or a history of edits, that would show the progression from, even if you started with AI, but then 3 weeks later you have something that is actually kind of different. Like you said, jumping off point. I don't know, but this is one of those topics I am not tired of yet. I don't think I'm going to be tired of for a long time because the use cases keep popping up in all these
Mhm.
different ways.
Andy Gadiel, um, from Andy's Fish page back in the day, did one of the recap shows with us, and he's gotten into it, and he's been doing stuff, and like Tom Marshall has been reposting it because he's been using Fish lyrics doing it, which is fantastic. Does that diminish what he's doing because he used the AI? I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. So I think we're going to keep running into these stories. To me, it's as much about the artificial intelligence use as it is the reaction of whoever it is that was impacted. To me, those kind of go hand in hand. And, right now we're seeing a lot of sensitivity, which is understandable. But that might shift after a while. Who knows? We'll see. So, yeah, good. I'm glad we had a chance to talk about that one. And then last but not least for this week, Smashing Pumpkins. I'll be honest, a band I don't think about all that often these days. They put out a post on social media. They're looking for a new guitarist. Maybe this is genius because, as I mentioned, this is really the first time that band has come into my mind for quite a while. Um, so, yeah, they have this application process open. I am loving that they're doing this. I mean, they've had their lineup shifts throughout the years.
Didn't
Billy
they do
Corgan.
it for? Didn't they do it for a bass player or something? at one time?
I think they did something similar. Yeah. Because Billy's really the only person I
Right.
think been there. I mean, he's a founding member.
Right.
So, maybe they're a little more
I
agile.
saw they did a free live stream from some festival a couple summers ago, and I watched it. And I was never a Smashing Pumpkins person. I actually had a roommate at one time who ruined it for me because he was way into the Smashing Pumpkins, and but it was interesting. I just I guess it just isn't my thing. I was older, I was aged out. If I had have been 5 or 6 years younger, it probably would have clicked more with me.
Yeah, I mean, it just they were a very interesting band, even in the midst of everything else that was happening, at that time. I really think that this is a very unique sound that they had. So I guess just a little more detail on what exactly it is that is happening here. So the post was just published last Friday, so the 5th, replacing guitarist Jeff Schroeder. Fans can apply. It can be anyone. They need a resume, some different materials, that kind of thing. And then apparently, after a few months, they're going to be back on tour in June. So they're planning to have someone by then. And I think they're going to have open auditions at some point. So pretty
Our
interesting.
friend of the channel, Marcus Rezak, posted on Facebook that he was going to be applying. And if we get a vote, I say everybody go vote for Marcus because he is a fantastic guy. And I am quite sure he could nail that catalog in a heartbeat.
He could, and hopefully he'd still be able to do all the other stuff that he does, because he is super talented and right now has a lot of creative flexibility. So when I saw that post, which has hundreds and hundreds of responses at this point, I just love the fact that that part of the musical process can be kind of out in the open. It's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different.
Yeah,
So we'll see.
very nice.
Maybe
Very
Goose
nice.
should do that. I hate to
Maybe
even bring
you
that up.
should.
I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
promised
that's all right.
myself I wasn't going to talk about it.
We're allowed. If that wound is still open for someone, I'm sorry. It's, Ben's going to land on his feet watching him with Humphreys. I got to
Oh,
watch the set, and I got to watch Chris um come back on for the midnight set, and they opened with Silent Type, which is my favorite song, and I was just like, oh my god, this is just too perfect. All right, so we got the interview coming up, and Manny Sanchez, Groove Session, his brother plays bass in the band, and this first clip we get into playing with family, and how that affects what goes on in the band. If you know someone your whole life, it's probably a little different walking into the studio, which is another thing we get into, and then we touch on some improvisation. So let's roll the tape, and we'll see you on the other side. You said that you have 6 albums. The first one was instrumental, correct?
Yes.
So do you have a process for the studio? Do you road test stuff, go in, or do you try to write stuff and say, hey, we're going to go in the studio and figure out what this song is before it goes out to the public?
Yeah, it's changed over the years. Like in the beginning, when it was fully DIY, including at the helm, recording in our own studio, it was let's record what we got, and then not overdo it, since we don't want to add too many things. Just keep the essence of live performance, but at the same time have fun with the studio setting. Like our first album was called Flying Burrito, and it was a concept album, which is a whole nother long thing. But yeah, so we made these characters, and it's like basically like a comic book, and so that was fun to add to the process. And so, but that kind of came. Well, it was at the same time, but after the music was written, then it made more sense. But I think over the years, it changed from just going with what we got to then when we started working with producers, or just even working with other songwriters, like bringing them in as a team to kind of like, hash
Right.
out the meat and potatoes of the song. then we would go with, we call the pre-pro, kind of making sure like, does this work? And then with certain songs too, though, it's like you want that live jam essence where it isn't like, okay, this is too long or this is this, that, and you want to keep that just that nice airy vibe. And so not just in and out, here's the chorus, but at the same time, finding that balance. Cause I love both. We really always love a great song and I love a great jam.
What was the name of that album a nod to Graham Parsons?
Well, it kind of was. There was a poster in our studio, and we were a little under the influence, and we're like looking around, like, man, like, what's the name of this song, dude? And we're just like posters all in the studio, and then at the top was just Flying Burrito Brothers, and on so many levels, and maybe it was just the bong talking, but it was the hunger.
Yeah,
but
it was perfect.
Like, Flying Burrito, and then of course, and we had some of those albums in the studio, and so it was like just popped it on, and just the flashiness, all of it. It was like this is something else. But yeah, it was kind of a little nod to Graham Parsons in a way.
Right. Cool. All right. So let's go to the live thing. You have your studio songs, right? You got your catalog there. How do you approach improvisation during your live shows?
It's, I like to leave it, of course, like leave it different for, depending on the crowd. Also, like what's currently going on. Sometimes, it's like, you just know, like your crowd, your crowd, certain crowds, you might want to drop into something a little bit more with the dub reggae vibe. Some crowds, they're going to want to get a little bit more jam electronica. So you don't go into it like, this is for sure what we're going to do. Of course, like you really want to truly be in the moment and let that, I throw the sand up in the air and see which way the wind's blowing, sort of thing. And so that's a big part of it. And then also, of course, with your fans, the fifth member, but then each other, listening to each other. And if somebody's introducing a little something, let's see where that goes. And, yes, and all that fun stuff, like really, conversing on stage with people or with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go further. How do you navigate that creative process as a band and maintain a cohesive musical vision while allowing the individual expression of each of you?
It's a good question. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I truly believe, though, that if, as a musician, and if you trust yourself and you trust the people that you're performing with, you can jump out the plane even without a parachute. Truly, if you just knowing that you trust that you're going to land on your feet on somewhere, or at least bounce up. You might not land on your feet, but you'll hit the ground and then you'll bounce up. And just knowing, as simple, where's one at, but knowing that, like for me, I've always tried to listen to as much music as possible, knowing that, especially when it comes to jam, to playing and going out there, to not get stuck in one sort of thing, and really wanting to, or like, no, this is where it's got to go, and just surrender and go with the flow. And 9 out of 10 times, give or take, it everybody in eye contact, that's the other thing. So just those moments of like, don't got to say much, but at least and yeah.
What's it like playing with your brother?
It's truly, it's one of the best things in my life, truly, just to be able to play with my brother as long as we've, well, obviously known each other, but been playing, performing, making music. It's easy, I feel like at this stage, with anyone, with the guys, it's easy because we're communicating, or we're just together. And so it's like music just flows. But with your brother, it's like a whole nother, like, don't even got to say anything. And then you just know there's just those certain things. And it's that. And then it's just also just, when you look back and you think about when you're telling each other, like, how cool would it be if we were doing this? Or, man, that would be bitching if this, or all the shows we've gone to over the years and just geeked out and just, listening to records over and over together and growing up, having our own stuff, but at the same time, listening to a lot of the same stuff. And so it's can't ask for a better, bass
Who's
player.
older?
I'm older. We're 18 months apart. So
All right, Kevin. As always, we're going to get back to the second half of the interview with Manny Sanchez. But before we do that, wanted to remind everyone to make sure to follow us on social media at All That Jam Pod. So that's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Definitely want to make sure that you're getting the latest. There's links and all kinds of other information that we want to share there, plus news from friends of the show. There's always a lot of that. And then also YouTube, check us out, subscribe so you can get those full interviews that Kevin's been posting. Allthatjampod.com as well. And then one other thing too is make sure to check out the liner notes for all of the shows and episodes, which can be found anywhere that you get podcasts. Give us a review. Let us know what you think. If you have ideas for interviews, let us know too, because Kevin, I don't know about you, but I'm in a mood this year to really just go for it and see who we can get on the show. Yeah.
We
All right.
also, you have something. Haven't you been working on some kind of searchable thing?
Yes. So I am in the midst of creating a database that can be searched by keyword, by band name, by artist name, because as we were just talking about recently, we might end up with 3 clips from a full interview. And now that we're talking to people multiple times, which has been really great. Let's say you want to just find out everything that we've talked about with Humphreys in one place. You can't really do that on most of the podcast platforms. So the goal is to have the database filter out whatever it is you're looking for and then provide you with the links right there so that you can find what you want.
Right. Anytime Joel is mentioned, if it's in the show notes or the title, it'll pop up, and with emphasis given to Joel on Humphreys.
Yeah, and it might say complete interview clip. So I'm really trying to be thoughtful about how would I want to use this, because I already want to use it, because it's helpful to go in, and we've got so much out there. So
there's only one, I think, Podbay. You can actually search once you go into All That Jam. You can search specifically in All That Jam, but that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I've done some just experimenting with some of the major platforms, and it's really hard also to just see everything at once or even scroll. And so from a usability perspective, I think that we can get some historical records together, which would be nice. And then anytime we talk to someone, it'd be much easier to share with them. So I'd say I am working on the halfway mark and trying to make sure everything is right. So there's a lot of links, but it's looking really cool.
I'm with you. It is a lot.
But it's worth it. It's important.
So speaking of adding more to your plate, this coming week, tomorrow on Tuesday, we have Maggie Rose back on songwriting, collaborating. Wednesday, we got Chris Adkins, guitar player for George Porter Jr.'s running partner, talking about George and a lot of the other New Orleans luminaries he has worked for. Thursday, we got Caton from the Jauntee back on about their latest. He lets out a little that they're thinking about the next one. They released the Jaunts of Our Lives, and they are hitting the road. Friday, we got Balthus on creating their unique sound. They are out of Bolivia, and surf rock psychedelic, great stuff. Saturday, Sugar Business, James Love back on about songwriting. And then Sunday, Adam Chase, who we talked to about his newer project, but we go back with Black Eyed Susan, the Chase Brothers, Jazz's Fish, his dab sessions, and Danny Darris, who is the guy he is working with now on his latest project. So let's jump back into the interview. We get into the philosophy. We haven't asked this question as much lately. It's kind of morphed into maybe what is success and things like that, but he gives a pretty good answer. We got into the disconnect, what I call the disconnect, which is listening back, and more about his family, because he, in addition to playing with his brother, he wrote some songs with his father. So let's check it out, and we'll see you on the other side. You touched on it a little bit, but can you share any of your personal philosophies or beliefs that influence your musical journey and expression as an artist?
Yeah, I mean, creating something that makes people think a little bit, reflect, and then also just, it's like I always like to think of, like, when it comes to the music, like we don't take ourselves serious, because we're not serious guys. We're freaking jokesters, and we're band guys, for God's sakes.
Right.
We like to geek out and talk shop and talk shit, but at the same time we take the music seriously in the essence of, like, what you're putting out there is a vibration. It's, like, you be honest with yourself, and as a music lover, that's when artists draw me in, or songs draw me in, or bands draw me in, or just not certain shows they draw me in, is when you could just tell there was a vulnerability, there was an honesty to it, and then also there was just like a fiery, we came here to do this. I love when I always would say, like, when you see a band in middle or whatever part of their tour, and you could just tell, like, they're tired, like, it would be a little bit of a bummer, when you're younger. When I was younger, like, I would just be like, I don't want to know that the van broke down, like, and it's nothing against the trials and tribulations of the road. It's just, ultimately, give us a show, baby. That's why we're here. I love you guys, and so not wanting to carry some of that baggage onto stage, and not to be like, oh, everything's great. Yeah, I just love it. Yeah, well, dude, and more just, there's intention behind what we came here to do, and that is, first and foremost, killer show. Whatever that looks like.
Do you find a disconnect when you walk off stage do you listen back later, like a week later, you listen to the show? Is there a disconnect between what you hear then and what you feel when you walk off stage?
Sometimes. And one thing that we try to do, it's good for practice over the years, is just always, like, recording shows and always listening. Got to listen back. And don't beat yourself up.
You listen right away? I've heard some people say, I got to wait 48 hours. I need time to separate from the gig itself before I listen.
Sometimes, but there has been, I ain't gonna lie, there's been a lot of times where it's like, literally, my brother's like, hey, want to listen to the show? And, like, we're back in the hotel room, just like, and then we're laughing. We're like, we're literally sitting, like, and sometimes we might have friends and whoever with us, but sometimes it's just us, and we're literally just listening to our show that we just had, like, now we're listening to ourselves more. And it's like, yeah, but it's not like, we're listening for things, and then also,
you have to.
Yeah.
It's like watching game film.
And that's always because we grew up sports. And so I always feel like that it's game film, it's important, good, bad. And then sometimes it is like, man, I thought that was way better than it was. And then sometimes it's like, wow, that actually was really killer. I knew it felt good, but I couldn't tell you exactly what we did. And then so I love listening back to those moments, because it's like, we should do that again, or that's a version that you could stamp it and get it out to folks, because that was fun.
So how do you envision the future of Groove Session, the Groove Session sound? How do you push that, the boundaries of that, and stay true to yourself creatively?
I think we're working on that, and just feeling like there's been a good balance of still, like, with lyrics, and talking about whether it's personal things in people's lives or social issues, and simultaneously at the same time doing still the fun, ass kicking, funkin' rock, fusion instrumentals, like, having that balance there, and knowing that I see, something that I'd love to get back to is incorporating, like, special guests, like, just for whether in the studio or live. I've always loved that fresh energy, when you bring someone up, and that's
Jay Lane. I don't know if you've heard any of the
Yeah.
Dead and Company shows. Amazing. Him stepping in. Nothing against Billy. It's just
No.
completely Spafford too, with Red leaving and
Yeah.
the new
That's
keyboard
another
player.
great example for sure. Yeah, and
Just-
both Red and Billy, I mean, those guys are founding members and amazing. And for Jay, it's really cool to see because he's just such a dude.
he loves it the most.
He's such a dude, and I trip out because it was a bummer when they first announced that was what it was going to be, but you just never know what's going on behind the scenes, and fans and people always want to speculate and talk shop and make things more or less than they are, more than they are, and it's like, you know what, we don't know, and ultimately it's got to serve the music.
So what's the summer look like? I know you said you didn't have that big of a schedule, but what
You
you
know
got
what?
going?
Because having the baby on the way and then having a 1 year old, and then I mean, it's that's the main reason. But then also, my brother's he has to have a knee surgery. He's had 2 knee replacements, and now he's due for a third. And he's just been going at it, like, we don't talk about it, and like he didn't have insurance to get it taken care of.
Right.
Finally got it, and then didn't have didn't have very good insurance, and so it was like, yeah, we'll put a band-aid over it, but we're not you're not getting any knee replacement, and so just having to, in order to be able to get back up to full speed and be kicking ass and doing all the things that we want to do, we couldn't, we're feeling a little bit wounded, if you will, and it was like just feeling like in limbo of, well, I got to have this surgery, but I don't know when, and just was like, you know what, we need to put a little bit of a halt,
Right. Say
care
2
of our own,
months. You got 2-3 months that we're not going to do anything. Get done what
take
you
care
need.
of your shit, get your shit taken care of, feel better, and then at the same time, knowing that when you hit back on it, it's go and
Yeah.
having fun.
What plus the show we do on Wednesday nights is going to go on hiatus soon because Tim, the Weekend Walk, is having another one
Oh, nice.
in July 1st or 2nd or something. I was like, you're going to have an Independence Day baby there.
Nice. Yeah, it's exciting times. All those pandemic babies, I call them pandas, little pandas.
Yeah.
And things happen out of these times, but it still feels a little crazy as an artist or as a musician that's been crazy busy every summer, and just on the move. There's that part of me that's like, feels like I'm like a dog looking out the window, like, hey, where are we?
Right.
And at the same time, it's like you got a lot to take care of here at home, and so the focus has been good for that, and just wanting to get songs done that are, like I was saying, almost done, and when we're full summer tour, they get put on the back burner, and then it's like, well, once fall comes, we'll finish them, we'll record a new that whole process.
Yeah.
And so got to take advantage of, if we're not going to be playing, then better be taking care of ourselves and writing.
Well, hopefully after summer we get to check back in again when you get working on the new album and stuff, and we can
that'd be
into
fun. And then
something
I know, because you've had more than just one member on, so I mean, we could have it so have the whole guys, have the whole crew on, would be cool.
Yep.
But definitely, a lot of good things in the works, because we got a couple great festivals that we're stoked about later in the summer, and then to end the year or fall, but then just already planning for next year.
That's all you can do.
That's it, right?
Yep.
And with music, it's like, there's no there's no end to it. I mean, you can always end it, but it's like, we always just say, you're a lifer, you're not going to stop listening to music. You're not going to finish or stop going to shows or being part of that community. And that's the biggest thing. Like, I feel like now, like, after the different lineup changes, and then COVID, and then going back out to playing for people, is just to remember why you love it, why you do it. And that really is because it's fucking fun.
There you go. All right. I'm going to leave it there. Let me stop this.
All right, Kevin, another great week coming up. And I mean, here we are, we're sitting not even halfway through the first month of 2024. We have been busy. We've got a lot coming up, a lot already on the calendar. And so just want to thank everybody for, their support. And I know I'm having the best time with this. More and more people, when I talk about the podcast, are very interested, and they can tell we're having a good time with it too.
And that's what matters. Everybody, treat everyone well while we're out there. And remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long. I'll see you next week, Amanda.
All right, Kevin, have a good one.